I have no doubt the thing that I suspect most people have responded to in the book and talked to you about since the book's publication and going on the Late Late Show is the passing of your brother Andrew.
Yeah.
What has that response been like?
It's been a bit of an eye opener. No, like I always knew that suicide was kind of a silent epidemic in Ireland, but like the amount of people that have reached out to me since with similar stories or have had similar experiences. It's been a bit depressing actually, but at the same time it just shows you that it is out there, and but at the same time I think we do have more support in Ireland than we ever had for that.
Yeah. What do they want you to say back, or what is it? Just to share?
It's just to share, and to acknowledge, and say, look, I've been in the same boat. So
I wonder, is that because unless you've gone through suicide in particular, it's very hard to explain to people?
Yeah, maybe it is, and it's probably a common bond you wish you didn't have, but at the same time, it's just been enlightening, because guys I'd known for years, I'd never known anything about it.
Really?
Yeah. But this might have been from their childhood or when they were younger, or that sort of way.
Yeah. It's a very difficult thing to talk about in as little depth as you want. It's 21 years now?
Yeah.
I guess the most horrific morning of your life, the memories of it, and again, we don't have to spend any great time talking about it because it is very sensitive and people can read about it in the book. But your memories of the morning?
Well, we'd been into school, and my brother Andrew hadn't wanted to go in that morning because he didn't have his homework done, so there was a bit of an argument about that, and eventually my mother went, screw it, and just took the rest of us in. So it was myself, my two brothers, my sister, and we were in the local school in Coleman's in Fermoy, and my sister she probably was, I don't know, she might have been in secondary yet, but so about halfway through the morning, the priest called us in and told us we had to go home and there had been an accident. And I tried to get, what are you talking about here? What's the accident? And eventually been told me your brother's dead. So went back home, and he'd shot himself on the landing of the stairs, and obviously my mother was in bits, and at the time I just walked past him, and there's a guy out in the guy who worked for us, Jim Bob, and he was in the middle of the milking, so there's still stuff to be finished. So I went and got changed, just walked back out, because I probably just didn't want to deal with it at the time.
That sounds like the most straightforward case of shock you can imagine.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because it's not an appropriate response.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's just I'm not dealing with this right now. I'm going out.
Like you went into automatic mode.
Yeah, and the days that kind of come after were, you found out there's a lot of people there supporting you, and they're in rural communities, you get everyone calling over to the house. I think we probably had about 1,000 sandwiches, know. So but and the funeral was absolutely massive.
You were 17, he was 16, and it's very clear from the book that you maybe knew him best of everyone. Shared a bed and just basically twins in kind of a way.
Twins.
And you say we suspected nothing. This was not on the horizon in any shape or form.
We didn't, no indication of anything coming. Often you hear that you hear about people who've shown signs they start giving away their possessions, or they just seem really unhappy and upbeat after, because they've made the decision. So
it's a release almost.
It's a release almost, but no, nothing like that. It just seemed like he was his normal self.
Yeah. And you say one of the interesting effects on the family, maybe you're a bit gentler with each other now. It's kind of put everything to a sharp perspective.
Yeah, we have squabbles, but I don't think we've ever had a serious fight.
Yeah.
In that regard, so I don't know. Maybe it's just the kinder part of it.
Yeah. How did you recover and do your Leaving Cert within a year and go to college and not just retreat from the world, I suppose?
It took a while.
Yeah.
I suppose for myself, I just wanted to get back to a sense of normality. So I did all the typical college teenage things. I was playing with UCC. I went up through, I joined, they put me in the minors, and I was in the seniors within 4 weeks. We actually won the Students' European Cup the first year I joined. So we got brought on at half-time, the Ulster Columbia game at Lansdowne Road. So, travelling away trips, shaving your head, and then I went to the States a couple of years afterwards. And
yeah. I would even think trying to study for your Leaving Cert, which can be monotonous and your mind can wander at the best of times, even trying to do that quickly on the back of this is a fair achievement to get that done. Yeah,
I mean, I didn't really think about it at the time. I just knew that I wanted to go to college. I was at a degree of natural book smart, so I was able to get by on that and get enough points. I knew I wasn't going for 600 points for leaving. I needed 420. I got 450.
Okay,
so that was fine. And I got into my course in UCC, which was biotech.
Yeah. As a kind of strange, I guess, postscript to it all, you thought there was no letter for a long time, and then it turned out, it seems in a fairly casual conversation, your mother let slip, there was a letter. Yeah,
because I sent down the chapter on Andrew to her, and she goes, actually, there was a note. I was like, what? And talking to my siblings since that she told them before, but for whatever reason, she'd never mentioned it to me, but it's not really something you want to bring up in casual conversation. Oh, by the way, I've had this note for 20 years. Do you want to see it?
Yeah. How'd you pick your moment? That moment?
Yeah, how'd you pick that moment? So I read it, and it was quite hard to read. One, because he'd scrunched it up into a ball and thrown it behind a wardrobe where my mother had found it about a year later, and two, he was quite emotional when he wrote it.
I'm sure.
So it was weird. It kind of took me back, I was 17 again reading it. So I just felt pretty pissed off with him afterwards. Because
that's probably very natural though. It's because you say he's talking about stuff like, well, I feel I'm not very clever, or I'm ugly, and you think, God.
Would you look at yourself?
And as there's pictures of him in the book, he looks like a fantastic fella. You say he's very clever. Yeah. It's whatever sickness can happen in the mind sometimes.
I think it was just an impulse for whatever reason. Maybe a fit of anger, or a fit of depression, or something. And unfortunately, he chose a fairly drastic course of action that there was no coming back from. Yeah.
I guess 20 years on, you talk about grief actually in a very interesting way. I say this, I've lost no one comparably close like that, and it's the uncertainty in life, I guess we all will at some stage, unfortunately, But you quote a passage about grief, which I thought was incredibly insightful and interesting. You liken it to waves almost.
Yeah, and that's what it's like. Because you kind of, it just comes at you in waves. Something might trigger it. You might hear a song on the radio that he liked, or you'll go past his favourite chipper or something like that.
Innocuous, small
little things, and it'll just remind you, and you get drowned beneath that feeling for 10 or 20 seconds, and then you're back. And I came across that piece on the website, and I thought it was really good, so I had to stick it in there. But
the sense is almost over time the waves can become a bit less frequent and maybe a little less tall, and you drown a little bit less, but then again a wave can still come. Yeah,
you can still get that rogue wave to just sweep over you. And so you can see him coming sometimes, so maybe around his birthday or around Christmas or that kind of way, but then you're looking around the table and you realise there should be one more person sitting there.
Yeah. What effect do you think it's had on you?
It's hard to say. It's probably made me a bit more thoughtful. For instance, if I'm going to have a go at someone, I have to be absolutely sure that there is a valid reason for this, and probably makes me try and look at things from other people's perspective a bit more. Which it doesn't. It's not a bad way to be anyway, but maybe I've probably been a bit too generous to people than I should have been at times.
It's understandable, though. It's a sense of you don't know what's going on with somebody else.
Yeah. So you try and look at it from their perspective, and trying to figure out what's motivating this, where's this coming from. But yeah, I suppose it would be also be a bit slower to, trust people, or to I suppose leave people see the inner you.
Really?
Yeah, get close to people. That can be even a bit slower about that.
As in, this stuff is too painful to talk about, so I don't want them to see it, or as in they could disappear at a moment's notice?
No, it's not. It's just like I don't know. It's a strange one. It's a strange one.
So I wouldn't have thought trusting people would have been one of the consequences, actually.
No, it's maybe trust is the wrong word. Maybe you don't really show people. Like, people think I'm quiet when they meet me, but once they get to know me, I'm not that quiet. But probably at the start, I'm just kind of like weighing them up a bit more and seeing what they're like before I decide, well, am I going to open up to them a bit?
Well, I guess so. I mean,
and Irish people are like that anyway, until you get a bit of drink into them.
Probably a bit of that going on as well. Yeah. I can imagine the reaction you've had, because I mean, it's very difficult to talk about, and actually it's written about so beautifully that people can read the chapter. I'm sure it'll be a comfort to some people as well. I'm not surprised you got people coming at you and sharing the story, and there's it is such a terrible thing that it's such an epidemic in this country, and like I saw a study the other day when it comes to things like anxiety and depression and all these various things. We're really high up for whatever reason on this small little island. It is a big issue here.
Yeah, but thankfully, like, attitudes are changing.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
My sister only told me a couple of weeks ago that a few months after Andrew died, some girls from our school came up to her and said, "We can't be friends with you anymore because your brother committed a sin."
Stop.
No, and they didn't lick that off the ground.
They heard that in the house.
They heard that in the house. So, like, I'm still mad over hearing that. But thankfully, attitudes are changing, and I mean, mental illness is just like a physical illness. Like, your brain gets sick just like anything else. So why should there be a stigma attached to it?
Yeah. Absolutely.